Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Greetings, good people of the planet Earth and the known universe. You're listening to GSMC's television podcast. It's your Captain Keith. And today's episode features new television shows, In the Dark, that's a CW Network original TV series, and The Village off of NBC. So yes, good people of the planet Earth and the known universe, sometimes terrestrial television is good too. Regular satellite TV, regular network television. So everybody's competing. Everybody's trying to give you something great to watch. So let's talk about it. Or as some would say, let's talk turkey. Turkey is good though, actually. I love it. But anyway, so let's get to it, folks. And spring is here, for summer's around the corner. So looking forward to that. Definitely. In the Dark. We'll start off with that one. It's a CW Network original series. It is executive produced by Ben Stiller and Michael Showalter from the Big Sick the Big Sick movie, and Corinne Kingsbury. So those are the executive producers. The program creator is Corinne Kingsbury. So there you go. So she created the whole thing. So there you go. Her brainchild. In the Dark. Let's give you a good description before we go into it. A blind 20-something Murphy is drifting through life in a haze of drunkenness, and her only friends are her understanding roommate Jess and Tyson, a sweet teenager Jess, and then Tyson, who is a sweet teenager she met when he saved her from a violent mugging. That's Tyson, that is. Murphy's life is turned upside down when, while out for a walk with her guide dog, she stumbles upon what she is certain is Tyson's lifeless body in the alley outside her apartment. When the body disappears by the time the police arrive and they don't seem inclined to investigate, Murphy clings on to the only thing that can keep her together, figuring out what happened to her friend. So we're going to talk about that too and about the show. So yeah, and my thoughts on that whole situation, how that went down, and what I thought was kind of peculiar, their own Captain Keith little fact checking on that regard. So, and let's see, it said, I love to read the synopsises because they're always, sometimes they can be a little different. And then another, so like the log line for the show, if you were going to describe it in one sentence. A young blind woman tries to solve her friend's murder. There you go. Okay. So that's the brief. That's the the one line. Yeah. Oh, one more. A rarely sober blind woman finds herself solving a murder mystery with the help of her guide dog, Pretzel, in the new series from Ben Stiller and the Big Sick director, Michael Showalter. There you go. So Murphy, that's the lead character who's blind. She is played by Perry Matfield. Her name is Murphy Mason. You find out when you watch this show. It's a good show. I mean, the first episode was great. I really enjoyed it. It's in the dark. It's dark and funny. So, pun intended, apparently. And then, so they call the show In the Dark because she's blind, but I feel like it has a double meaning because I feel like she's kind of surrounded by, she's blind so she can't see, but she just doesn't seem happy with her life. So we'll start off there. So yeah, Murphy Mason's her name. You find out that she was adopted by this interracial couple played by, and their names are Darnell and Joy. Darnell is played by Keston John, and Joy is played by Kathleen York. And they run like a It's like a dog kennel for CNI dogs. So, yeah. And Murphy works there, but usually she's just kind of passed out drunk while at work. It's one of those things that her parents run the joint, so she has a job, even if she's not qualified or she's just not working the way she should be. Brooke Markham plays her roommate Jess. And so when I watched this show, I was like, okay, well, when I saw the trailers for it, I was like, all right, this looks kind of funny. So what's going to be going on? I had no idea there was going to be murder involved or anything like that. I was just like, I just didn't know what to expect. I mean, when you watch the trailers for the TV show, you know, there's a scene where she's in a car and she's in the front seat, in the passenger seat, and a lady's in the back seat, and she's like, oh, I couldn't tell. You don't look like you're blind. And Murphy says to the girl, well, you don't look like you're stupid. So the thing is, when the girl made that dumb remark to Murphy, she kind of opened, I mean, she asked for it. So what's cool about this show is that they're not giving you someone who, like this poor innocent blind woman that you feel sorry for. Murphy's a regular person. She's blind. If anything, she just wants to be treated like everybody else. And she's unhappy. I don't know if it's because she's blind or what. I get the feeling that she's just not. How do I say this? She doesn't seem to have any guidance or focus. And that seems to be eating away at her. And I think that she deals with it by drinking. And it seems like the dynamic she has with her parents, or her adoptive parents, it seems like the dad kind of spoils her and the mom doesn't. But but family dynamics can be very fascinating, especially when you have a son and a daughter. So it seems like, traditionally there's the daddy's girl and then there's mama's boy. And it seems like Murphy's definitely daddy's girl. She loves her mom, but they butt heads. And it seems like maybe mom might have been the disciplinarian in the family. I get that feeling just by the interaction that she has with her dad. So you find out in the show that Murphy lost her sight at 14. And when she was adopted, she wasn't adopted as a baby. So she was an older girl. So she was shocked when she got adopted. So it's very interesting. And then there's one of her coworkers who she can't stand. She's always sniping at him. I believe it's Felix, played by Morgan Krantz. He's very passive aggressive in how he deals with Murphy. He kind of resents her. He's like, she's not pulling her weight, and he seems to be like the bookkeeper crunching the numbers, and he's concerned with making sure that the business stays afloat, while Murphy's like usually half the time just sleeping or getting over a hangover. So she has a dog, Pretzel. That's her CNI dog. She's very close to Pretzel. So in this first episode, you see that Murphy, she likes to take a walk. So sometimes she'll go in the alley. And I'm like, why is this blind woman walking in the alley with her dog? What's that about? And I'm thinking she knows it's the alley because she can probably smell it to identify it. Because, when you're blind, you don't have your eyesight, but apparently your smelling senses and your hearing senses are more heightened than someone who's not blind. I guess because you have to rely on it a lot more than people who have eyesight. So, and then there's the whole thing about, what's the discussion like when we talk about people who've had eyesight and they lose it versus someone who was born blind? What is that dynamic? I mean, is that worse because you had it, now it's gone, and you remember what it was like to see these people? So it's just very interesting. Very. So as I was saying, Felix doesn't like Murphy. Murphy doesn't like Felix. They snipe at each other. But I also kind of wonder if that relationship's going to stay that way, where there's all this antagonism between the two, or is there some latent sexual chemistry between the two of them that hasn't been addressed yet? So, and we'll talk about why I say that a little bit later. So, in one of the scenes in the episode where Felix is talking to Murphy, Felix is talking to Darnell, Murphy's dad, and Joy, her mom. They're like, well, we need fundraising, we need money to keep things floating. So as they're having that conversation, a couple comes in and they're outside, and Murphy's on the bench, and they're like, excuse me, we're here to speak to some, to speak to who's in charge. And Murphy's like, well, why is that? She goes, oh, well, because we want to donate some money. We believe in this program. And Murphy's like, well, my parents run it, so you can keep me the check and I'll give it to them. It's like, I promise, I work here. My parents do run it. So they give her the check, and then the husband, he sees Murphy. Murphy's an attractive lady. So she's this blonde-haired, attractive blonde woman, kind of statuesque. She might be like around maybe 5'8", 5'9", or she seems like around that height on television. It's like she kind of almost looks like a supermodel who happens to be blind. So the husband's kind of checking her out, and the husband's with the wife, and he's like, well, honey, go on in there and take a look. I'll be there in 1 second. So, Murphy can smile. Murphy smiles because she kind of knows that the guy's kind of checking her out a little bit, but he doesn't really say anything too much. They give Murphy the check. The next scene is Murphy inside the office giving the check to her parents, and they're really happy because the check's like for $10,000, and it's money they can use towards their business. Because they're training and raising dogs to be, seeing eye dogs for blind people. And it's a great service. It's a great business. It's a great thing to be doing, helping people out. And so they're excited about that. The next scene is basically, except Murphy is she goes into, like I said, she takes a walk in the alley. And then I'm just like, and when this whole thing happened, I didn't know the name of her dog. So she's looking for Tyson, and like the dog, because the dog like runs away from her. He's in front of her, and he runs forward, and she's like, Tyson, are you there? So when I'm watching this on television, I'm thinking, is the dog named Tyson? Is she want her dog to come back to her? Is she upset because the dog ran off? And then she keeps on walking, and she stumbles on the body. We don't see the body, but we know she sees the body, and she's feeling on the body, and she starts crying and yelling, and she's like asking for help. And she's like, Tyson, Tyson. So then the dog is barking. So I'm thinking, does she not see her dog? I didn't know what was going on. And then, we find out that, okay, Tyson was her friend who's dead in the alley. They called the police. The police can't find Tyson's body. And Murphy's dog is actually named Pretzel. So I was a little confused with that, but I figured it out. So that was pretty traumatic. So I had no idea that there was going to be like a murder in this show. I just thought it was just going to be about a blind girl just dealing with life. But it's that too, but there's also this whole murder thing going on. So now what bothered me, though, was that the police get there. They're asking her questions, and Murphy's roommate is there. And Murphy's roommate is she's nice, and her roommate's got a girlfriend, and she's telling her girlfriend about a roommate. She's played by Brooke Markham, who plays Jess. And Jess is very supportive of Murphy, and they've probably known each other for a long time. So the police are like, well, thank you for all the information you've given us. And they can tell Murphy's upset. They don't necessarily know why. They just think, it was just some bum in the alley. And, Murphy walks off. And the thing is, Jess, the roommate, tells one of the police officers, look, Tyson's one of her only few friends. Tyson's a big deal. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? Murphy was getting attacked one day. Someone robbed her and was beating up on her. And Tyson chased the person off and called the police and stayed there and basically saved her life. So there, that's, he's a special dear friend to her. So that's the backstory we got on Tyson, although we haven't seen his face or anything. Now, here's what bothered me was that she stumbled on the body. She got someone to call the police to meet them in the alley. Okay, so now all of a sudden they can't find Tyson's body. We'll talk some more about this after this break.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
And once again, you're listening to Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. This is your Captain Keith, talking about the new TV series In the Dark on the CW Network. Yes, and it stars... Her name is Perry Matfield, right? Yeah. Yes, as Murphy Mason, Perry Matfield. So as I was saying before, okay, so they call the cops. She's in the alley with the dead body. The cops question her. Now all of a sudden the dead body can't be found. So what happened? Did she leave the alley when the police came and come back? Did someone move the body while she was there? See, that part of the story didn't make any sense to me. That's the only thing that bothered me is how is the body going to be gone while she's still in the alley waiting for the cops? Unless Jess took her inside while they wait for the police to come, and then when it came back out, the body was taken. And I wish we could have seen that, because that would have made more sense. So the police don't believe her because she drinks a lot. So they think, oh, she's just a drunk blind chick wandering in the alley. She wants some attention. That's when Jess tells one police officer, no, Tyson saved her from being mugged and assaulted and called the cops and stayed with her. That's one of her best friends. That might be her best friend. So no, this is really upsetting for her. She's not making this up. And that police officer that Jess is talking to also shares that his daughter is recently blind. And, he sees that Murphy has this dog, so he asks her, the dog's name and talks about the dog, and that's how you find out that he's Pretzel. So later on, we see that particular police officer again, and he's very empathetic to Murphy, but he's like, well, I need proof. I want to help you, but we can't find a body, so there's nothing I can do unless you can find out some more information. So Murphy's upset about all of this. I mean, understandably so, right? So now, because no one's really believing her. Okay, so I was wrong. Murphy's dad was not the person I said. Okay. So let me get back here. So Keston John is not Murphy's dad. That's Darnell. My bad. So Murphy's dad on the show, his name is Hank Mason, played by Derek Webster. Okay. So that's her dad on the show. Yeah, Hank Mason. But I'm still pretty sure that Kathleen York, Joy, is the mom. Because there's no one else. It's between her and, let me see. 1 second, folks. I'm just double checking something. Marley Talkington, who plays Kimmy, but I don't think. No, it's not her. Pretty sure it's Joy. Yeah, it's Kathleen York who plays Joy. Definitely. So, what was I saying? I'm sorry, folks. I get distracted. Oh, yeah. So, Murphy's upset because the body's allegedly gone. And then Murphy's texting Tyson's phone. She doesn't get a response. Then eventually she gets a response saying that he's busy. So, but before all that happens, Murphy reaches out to Tyson's cousin, Darnell, played by Keston John. Apparently Darnell is a drug dealer and he used to have his cousin Tyson sell drugs for him when he was 14. So Murphy feels some kind of way about Darnell. She doesn't like him at all. And he's like, look, Tyson's fine. You know, he's with the girl. You know, he'll see you when he sees you. And Murphy's not really buying it because she's like, it's not like Tyson not to respond back to me. And she's like, I called the cops because I thought he was dead. And he's like, why are you calling the police? And, you know, they get into an argument. And Darnell is very frank. So here's the cool thing about Darnell's character, even though apparently he was a drug dealer. Of course, that's not cool. It seems like, so Hank, Murphy's dad, definitely spoils her. The mom doesn't. Other people kind of treat her with kid gloves. Darnell doesn't care. Darnell's like, you know, my cousin's fine. Why should I believe anything you say? You're just a drunk, because I heard about you. You're just a drunk, blind white girl who roams around the alley. He goes, and you're mean to everybody. He goes, you're even mean to your dog. So Darnell goes in on Murphy. No one talks to her that way. Basically, Darnell's like, I don't care that you're blind. You're rude and you're mean. And you're not even nice to your dog. So then he just walks out. He's just like, so leave me and my cousin alone and don't ever bring the police into our business. And so she's like shocked because no one's talked to her that way before. So yeah, he caught her off guard because everyone else is usually, you know, treating her with kid gloves because she's blind. You know, it's like they think she's like not a person, you know. So Murphy keeps on trying to text Tyson. Tyson eventually gets back, but it's just kind of short. And it's just not really, it doesn't feel right when she hears the text because she can hear the text a lot on her phone. So basically, Murphy tries to do some more investigating. She tells Jess something's wrong. I know something's wrong. You know, I know that was Tyson. I think he's dead. I think someone has his phone. And Murphy goes to the police station and she tells the police officer, the one guy who has a daughter who's now blind, what she thinks. And he's like, hey, I want to help you, but I need proof. I can't just go on your hunch. I need, you know, proof before I can do anything. And he's like, I'm thinking about getting my daughter a dog. Do you have any recommendations? How do you, you know, what do you suggest? And then Murphy tells him, look, here's what you do. Just treat her like a normal person. Don't, you know, if she does something wrong, ground her. Make her take out the garbage. Just treat her like a normal person. He's like, that's the best advice I've been given. Because what happens then, this police officer takes his daughter to Murphy's parents' business to get a dog. And that's when, you know, he's sitting there talking, and Murphy's like, whatever. And then, the daughter's sitting there, and she's like annoyed with her dad. He's like, oh, what? Because he goes, he introduces me to you like we're supposed to have something in common. We don't even know each other. Because he's thinking, oh, because they're blind, they're going to bond. And then Murphy's like, yeah, I know. And she's like, hey, you're like me. You're cool. You're different. He goes, because she's like, I'm a loner. And Murphy's like, yeah, so am I. Loners are pretty cool. I know you're cool. She goes, and the girl's like, you think so? And he's like, oh, yeah, of course you are. So, the daughter does start to bond with Murphy. Murphy's nice to her. Murphy's like, I get it. But Murphy gave that advice to the police officer, like, hey, treat her like everybody else. If she does something wrong, ground her, make her take out the garbage, treat her like a kid. And then you see a scene, later on you see the police officer's daughter playing with one of the dogs and just smiling and just being happy. So they're definitely, so the dad's definitely going to buy a dog for his daughter. And all that was cool to see. And I enjoyed that dialogue, because when you see somebody who has special needs, you don't necessarily want to treat them with kid gloves. You want them to feel like everybody else. They'll have more respect for you, and then they'll feel more comfortable about themselves in their life. So I enjoyed that dialogue, and I enjoyed that scene, and you got to see Murphy be warm and open up to somebody, because she seems very closed and shut off. So, and then there's a whole scene where you see Murphy. Well, so, okay, I don't want to jump, so let me go back. So remember I told you about the couple that gave a $10,000 check to the Masons for their dog business. So, before he left, the husband was hitting on Murphy while the wife was inside, looking at the dogs, and Murphy's like, you want to go for a drink? She's like, I'll drink in one place, and it's a dive bar over here. So of course, what's the husband do? He finds her at the bar, and she hears his voice, recognizes him, and she's like, let me guess, you see me here, and you say to yourself, I've never banged a blind chick. And he just smiles, and he sits down, and they're talking. He's like, oh, my wife just went out of town. And Murphy's been drinking, and he buys her another drink. And the next day, she's like, okay, well, what the hell? Which means that Murphy was obviously bored, so she decides to go back to the guy's place and have sex with him. But they get interrupted before they can. She's half naked. The wife comes home, and he tells her to hide. Now, mind you, he's talking to a blind woman, telling her to go hide somewhere. She doesn't know his place. She can't see anything. And the wife's like, oh, the trip got canceled. I figured I'd just come home and surprise you. It's like, oh, okay. And because he's all out of breath. Like, why are you out of breath? Oh, I'm just happy to see him. Murphy's hiding, right? The light turns on, and you see that she's hiding underneath a glass table. And she's like, let me guess. This table is glass, right? And she's like, yep. So she gets kicked out with the clothes, and the wife is yelling at her husband. So the husband got caught red-handed cheating on his wife, or trying to cheat on his wife. And the check for $10,000 gets canceled. A stop payment on it. So Murphy's parents are like, why did this check come back? So it was stop payment. And so Murphy doesn't have her stick, and she doesn't have her dog. So she's trying to figure out how she's going to get home. And she calls her folks. She can't get a hold of them. So she winds up calling, Felix, the guy that she can't stand at the office. And he winds up picking her up and taking her back home. And he's on a date with his girlfriend, or his future girlfriend. And that's the lady who asked, because she doesn't believe that Murphy's blind. It's like, you don't look blind. And that's when Murphy says, well, you don't look, you're stupid, And if he was like, she's not stupid, she's real smart. So they're arguing. And then Murphy gets home, and then her parents, are mad. But of course, her dad isn't as mad. And like I said, that's his little girl. So he spoils her, and she's just like, yeah, you probably wish you never got me. You who wanted an older kid, with issues, and a blind kid. And, Hank is like, you were always the perfect child for us. So, yeah, he's very close to his daughter. So, because they're sitting there on the couch watching TV, or he's watching TV, and she falls asleep, her head on his shoulder. And then the wife comes home, and, and she's like, okay, I'll leave. She's like, no, you can stay. And, no, I want to go home. And she's like, well, I'll drive you. And then Hank was going to drive his daughter home. And his wife, Joy's like, no, I'll drive her home. So Pretzel and Murphy get in the car with Joy, their mom, and they're driving, and Joy has the heat on, and then Murphy's upset. She's like, can you turn the heat down? No, let me run the window down. It's too hot in here. And she's just like, I don't want to get sick. The flu's been going around, or people are getting cold, and, it's cold in here. So they start arguing about the heat in the car, and then Murphy's like, I'll just walk home. I don't need you. And they get into this huge fight. And Joy's like, no, I told you I was going to drive you home. I'm going to drive you home. And they're just bickering, and the dog is barking. She's like, great, now you got the dog yelling at me. And she's like, quiet, Pretzel. So the dog can sense his frustration while he's in the back seat. And they pull up to the house, and the mom is like, Joy's like, get you some rest. And as before Murphy can get out of the car, Joy grabs her and kisses her on the forehead, and then they embrace, and then she leaves. So it's just so I'm looking at that scene like, okay, it's just mothers and daughters. So it just is what it is. They love each other, but maybe they're a lot alike, or like I said before, I kind of got the feeling that the mom, Joy, is maybe the disciplinarian, because Hank is wrapped around, Murphy's finger, literally. And then, so before that happened too, Murphy gives her mom a check for $10,000. She's like, "What's this?" And she's like, "Well, this was my fault. This happened at the stop payment, so I owe you $10,000. So that means I'll work for you until I can get this paid off." And that's when, Joy's moved that her daughter was taking responsibility for what she did and offering to step up and do more, at work. So her mom, Joy, was very moved by that. So we'll wrap up In the Dark after this break. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And once again, you're listening to GSMC's television podcast. District Captain Keith speaking, talking about the new series In the Dark off the CW Network. So getting back to this initial episode that aired last Thursday. So there's more to it. So remember I told you about how Darnell, Tyson's drug dealing cousin, just dissed Murphy. He was just like, you're mean, you're a drunk. I'm not going to trust some blind white girl who's drinking too much. Blind drunk white girl who walks around the alley, and like I said, and you mean to everyone, including your dog. He said that to her. So basically, that got to Murphy. So the next scene after Murphy gets dropped off by her mom, and they hug and embrace. There was a nice little warm moment for a second. And, like I said, Joy was moved that her daughter took responsibility for what she did. Murphy tells Jess, "Hey, I need your help. I have to track Tyson's phone because I think someone else has his phone. I do still think he's dead, but I need to verify this." So Murphy convinces Jess to go to a cell phone company and they bribe a guy to trace, Tyson's phone. Murphy says it's her phone and she can't find it, but of course they know she's lying. And she tells the guy, well, he's like, "I can get fired for this." He's like, "Well, I'll let you buy me a drink." "I don't drink. I'm underage. I'll give you $20. I'm like, "Okay." So it was funny. She was flirting with this guy. He's like, "I'm underage. I don't drink." So they track the phone. They go find it, and it's like somewhere out by some bridge somewhere, like disposed of. So once Murphy and Jess see that, they're like, something's wrong. Something's going on. Someone moved his body. They don't want us to know that Tyson's dead. Murphy goes and she calls Darnell again. They meet up again at the same little cafe. I forgot to tell you it was a cafe they met at. And when he sits down, she's like, "Hey," so look, I'm being nice to my dog. And she started feeding the dog. And Darnell's he's looking at her like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And she's like, "Look, Tyson is something's going on. Someone has Tyson's body. Something bad happened." He's like, "Look, he's with a girl." And she's like, "No, he's not. Here's his cell phone. And I found it over here at the spot." So when Darnell sees that, And he's like, okay, don't say nothing to the cops. I'll take care of it. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. So now Darnell's worried because she has his phone. He's like, wait a minute, something is going on now. I'll take care of it. So he's like, thank you. And he walks out. But then she goes to tell the police officer. And he's like, how'd you get this phone? And he's like, do I want to know? And she's like, I can't tell you. But this is his phone. So now there's going to be an investigation underway. So it's going to be interesting to see, if Tyson's body ever shows up on the show, and if Darnell and Murphy develop a friendship. I already see she's going to be dating other dudes. I see that happening. Of course, it has to happen. She's the main character. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The dynamic with the parents intrigues me. It's a very original show, the story. I've never seen a story like this before, so I'm excited to see where it goes. Murphy is dark. She's funny. I like her though. She just she has issues. She just happens to be blind. That's all. But but like I said, so even with the title of the show, In the Dark because she's blind, but I feel like it's in the dark because of maybe isolation. She's isolating herself. She's not happy. There's no focus. So in the dark, I feel like means a lot of things. It's not just about her being blind. And, then I feel like, so are her parents in the dark about who she is or who she wants to be? Are the police in the dark about her best friend, being killed? Is everyone in the dark about how they treat her? So yeah, I'm digging the show. I like it. So, and then, yeah, it's very fascinating. So I'm looking forward to the next episode. That was just the first episode. Hats off to the producers who created the show. You have my attention. All right. Well, good people of the planet Earth, now it's time to talk about The Village. So this is a new series on NBC, and I kind of feel like it's got this whole This Is Us theme vibe going. And yes, good people of the planet Earth and the known universe, I am guilty. I have not watched This Is Us. I've heard great things about it. I have not watched it yet, so it is on my list. But I have started watching The Village, and I've seen the first 2 episodes, I think, so I have to watch the 3rd episode. So let's talk about what The Village is about. So here's one synopsis. Residents of a unique apartment building in Brooklyn build a bonded family of friends and neighbors. That's one log line for it. And then a more detailed synopsis. A unique apartment building in Brooklyn is home to residents who have built a bonded family of friends and neighbors. Sarah's a nurse and single mom raising a creative teen. Gabe's a young law student who just got a much older and unexpected roommate. Ava must secure the future of her young U.S.-born son when ICE comes knocking. Nick's a veteran who's just returned from war, and Ron and Patricia, who are the heart and soul of the building, have captivating tales all their own. They're hopeful, heartwarming, and challenging stories of life. Prove family is everything, even if it's the family created with the people around them. That's a great description of the series. It is. So let's get into the cast of The Village. So Miranda Tias plays Ava Bizzatti. Dominic Chinese plays Enzo Napolitano, also known famously as Uncle Junior from The Sopranos. Yes. Warren Christie plays Nick Porter. I believe he's the vet who has one leg. Frankie Faison plays Ron Davis. He is like the super and possibly the owner of this apartment building. With Lorraine Toussaint, who plays his wife, she's great. She's known for many things. She was on Rosewood with, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank right now. And the women love this guy too. Man, it'll hit me later. She was on Rosewood. Man, what's his name? But But she was also on the Orange is the New Black. She plays Patricia Davis, Frankie Faison's wife. And he's what, Ron Davis? Yeah. So they're the heart and soul of the building. Katie Campbell plays Grace Van Dien. No, excuse me. Grace Van Dien plays Katie Campbell. So, and let's see, there's more in the cast, but it's a lot more people that we haven't necessarily seen yet. Darren Kagasaw plays Gabe Napolitano, and that is the grandson of Enzo. So, what's his? So give me 1 second, because the guy's name, I know him. Morris Chestnut, that's right. There he is. Yeah, so Lorraine Toussaint played Morris Chestnut's mom on the series Rosewood that lasted briefly on Fox Network. So she did that, and she did Orange is the New Black, but now she's a co-star on The Village with Frankie Faison. So The Village is cool. What I like about this show, it's about, like that synopsis said, it's about family. It's about creating. You heard the saying, and you've heard the famous quote from Hillary Clinton: "It takes a village," and that's true for any community. Ideally. And Miranda T.S. used to be on Tyrant, an FX television series that lasted for 2 seasons. I used to love watching her on that. She was great on that, so it's good to see her again. The whole thing about it takes a village. I mean, like I said, that's true for any community. Ideally speaking, that's how it should be, where, we look out for each other. You know your neighbor, they know you, they know your children know theirs. And, you care about each other, and so often people get so isolated because they're always working. They never, they get isolated and introverted, and they don't do anything. And there's no, back in the day, there were people, streets would have block parties. People would have barbecues, everybody knew each other. So The Village gives you that kind of feel. So a lot of things are going on with this show. So, for example, let me get into the cast. Okay. Ava Bizzotti, played by Miranda T.S., you find out that she's undocumented, but she has a son born in the country. ICE comes for her. She has a neighbor who's a police officer who, let's see, played by Brandon J. Shaw. No, that's not him. That's somebody else. Hold on. I'm looking at the cast, the complete cast, and I have to find this person so I can tell you. Because I love telling you guys the stories, because after I watch the show, I can just, off the dome, I can tell you what's going on. But there's always particular... And this police officer, I like him too. He's a stand-up guy. But where is he? Because this whole Rashad guy doesn't look anything like... Let's see. One second. Good people of the planet Earth and the known universe. Okay, there he is. All right. So Jared Haynes is the actor, and he is Officer Ben Jones. So when Ava gets approached by ICE, she has her son with her, and then, Officer Jones is coming home. Like I said, they're neighbors. He sees what's going on. He's like, hey, I can vouch for her. I'm her neighbor. She's good. Like, no, this paperwork says we got to take her in. She's illegal. So they arrest her in front of her son, but then, Ben Jones, the officer's like, hey, I got him. I'll take care of him. We'll get this figured out. So she's upset. You find out that allegedly her husband was in charge of all her paperwork, but they're not together. But we don't know why they're not together, so we haven't gotten to that part yet. So when Patricia Davis, played by Lorraine Toussaint, finds out what happened with Ava, she goes to Gabe, played by Darren Kagasoff, who's a law student who's about to finish law school. He's not a lawyer yet, but he's on his way. And she's like, hey, we need your help. Ava's been detained by ICE. You got, she's family. We got to take care of her. She can't get deported. Her son is here. He was born here. And Enzo, his grandfather's in the old folks home. He's not real happy there. He's a widower. And one of his best friends dies there. So he and his other buddies, they're all like, hey, this sucks, but we got to do something. We got to send him off. We got to bury him. He likes to sneak out on a little field trip. And he's real close to his grandson. We'll talk some more about The Village after this break.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And once again, you're listening to GSMC's television podcast. This is Captain Key speaking. We're talking about the new series, The Village, off of NBC. So, as I was saying before, Ava's in trouble with ICE. Patricia gets Gabe to help out and look into her case and meet with her. His grandfather, Enzo, is upset because one of his best friends in the nursing home died. So he and his other friends, they want to, have a salute to him, so they sneak out. While all this is going on, they go to this bar that Ron Davis owns, who's Patricia's husband. While all that's happening, so we'll get back to the bar scene in 1 second. Before that bar scene, Nick Porter comes to town. Now, Nick he's a war vet, and he lost his leg. And so he lost his leg in service. So he's got one leg. He's got a prosthetic, and he moves into the apartment. When Ron sees him, he greets him with open arms. He's like, "Thank you for your service," and Nick's like, "Thank you for saying that." And he's like, "You're gonna love it here, and I got people I want you to meet." And Ron is just very open and welcoming. And, if you're a soldier and you're coming back from, being in war, you might be a little shell-shocked, and you might not be ready to be that outgoing and engaging. And it's like an adjustment, I can imagine, reintegrating properly into society, because you've been in a whole different world that's cut off from how everyone else has been living. You've been dodging bullets. You've been holding a gun every day. Just all kinds of stuff that's probably going through your head. So, but we find out, this plot thickens, though, because Nick is moving in, and Ron eventually takes him to the bar, and Ron is trying to get Nick to work at the bar for him. Nick's like, "I'm not looking for a job. I just got here. Chill a little bit." But while that's going on, then you have to deal with, so there's Sarah Campbell and Katie Campbell. Sarah is the mom. She's a nurse. She's a single mom. Katie is her daughter, played by Grace Van Dien. Sarah's played by Michaela McManus. So we see Katie out and about, and she's like vandalizing public property. She's getting in trouble at school for it. They call Sarah. Sarah has to come pick her up. She gets expelled for it. You also find out that Katie's pregnant. She is a teenage girl. She's 16 or 17, and she's pregnant. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, your mom's a nurse. How are you pregnant? Did you guys not have to talk? Did she just not think you were having sex, or did you not talk about birth control? So this is the story. This is how you create drama. I get it. I'm just thinking to myself, you see your mom is single, and she's raising you. and now you're putting yourself in a position that you shouldn't be doing that. But as I said before, the plot thickens because we find out that after Katie meets Nick by chance, because Nick has been waiting for something to get delivered to him, and what you find out, so Nick has been waiting for his dog. You find out when Nick lost his leg, his dog was overseas with him, while he was serving, and the dog helped protect him because the dog was a bomb sniffer. The dog helped cover Nick and saved his life, and the dog lost one of his legs, helping save Nick, and Nick lost one of his legs. So the package that was getting delivered was the dog. The dog was cleared to leave the military and was adopted by Nick. So now the dog lives with Nick. So they're a team. So you see Nick embracing the dog, and you see Katie leaving the apartment building and seeing them two talk. And then Sarah sees Nick talk to Katie, and then as Katie leaves, Sarah's like, "Did you say anything to her?" She's like, "No, I didn't think it'd be a good time for her to know that I'm her dad." So yeah, the plot thickens. So Katie's dad now lives there, and Sarah basically lied to Katie about who her father was and what was going on. She's got Katie thinking that he just left, but he didn't know that Sarah was pregnant when he went into the military. And then that plot gets some more twists and turns there too. You also see that Gabe has a girlfriend, and she's just not. She's into Gabe, but she seems very selfish and self-involved. And Gabe spends more time with his grandfather than his own father does. And there's a scene where the grandfather is spending the night with Gabe because basically the grandfather, he escaped. He played hooky with his friends at the nursing home to go out and have a drink. And that's when Ron has Nick at the bar when Enzo comes in with his buddies, and they're like, "This is Ron." They see Ron is like to Enzo, "Hey, this is Nick." And Enzo and his buddies see that Nick has this like army jacket on, and they're like, "Hey," they salute him, and they all say what their rank was in the military. And they're like, "Thank you for your service." And he salutes them back. And, they all talk and they all bond. And Ron's like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be working here. He's going to be great." And Nick's like, "I haven't accepted the job." And it's like a little running joke. And then all of a sudden Gabe gets called because Gabe comes down and Gabe's upset. He's like, "I got a call from nursing home that you ran out, that we weren't there. What's going on with you?" It's like, my buddy died and we wanted to, have a toast to him and drink to him. So Gabe's like, "I get it." But Gabe gives him a little lecture at first. He's upset. But then later on he apologizes to his grandpa. Basically what winds up happening is that Gabe realizes that, he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry that he's gone, but these things happen." But eventually Gabe realizes that maybe it might be better if his grandfather does live with him because he keep an eye on him. And so there's a scene that happens where Gabe's girlfriend comes over, and she sees someone laying in bed with the sheets over their head, and she gets in bed and she puts her hand where she shouldn't, and then the sheet comes down. He's like, "I don't think my grandson would like you doing that." And she runs out. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." So that was a funny, humorous moment. And then later on, she's talking to Gabe, and she's kind of disrespectful about in front of the grandfather. So when she leaves to go to work, and Enzo tells his grandson, "Hey man," he basically says, "Hey," he warns him about her. He goes, "Be careful." He goes, "What do you mean, Grandpa?" He goes, "That woman is cold, just like her grip." And Gabe is like, he's thinking to himself, "What the hell does it mean about the grip? Like, what did she touch?" So it was a funny moment when he said that, but the grandpa was serious. And I'm watching her, be kind of disrespectful to, Enzo in front of Gabe, but I'm just like, yeah, you're not the one for him. No, that's his grandfather. You need to have some respect. If that was his grandfather or grandmother, be respectful. So So there's interesting dynamic between Gabe and his grandfather Enzo. And by the way, Dominic Chianese, if I'm saying his name right, who played Uncle Gino in The Sopranos, great actor. I forgot how much I liked watching him act. He's amazing. I'm so happy he's on this show. Love watching him. He was great on The Sopranos. And by the way, they are going to be, I already talked about this before, they are going to be doing a prequel of The Sopranos, getting into Tony's younger days, and his son will be playing him. So that's nice. But yeah, Dominic Chianese, he steals the show. He's great. So with Sarah and Katie Campbell, like I said, Sarah is like the 16-year-old, 17-year-old girl who's pregnant. She tells her mom is by a guy named Jagger. And there's more detail that happens with all that. And I'm just thinking to myself, you're just kind of really irresponsible because you see your mom's out here working hard and struggling. Why would you put yourself in this type of position and situation? But these things happen. And then, so Ava Bizzotti, she's worried about her son and she's worried about getting deported. Officer Ben Jones is taking care of her son, stepping up. The son's not really that talkative. He's kind of withdrawn. But, Ben is, he's there for him. And, Ava really appreciates it. So when it's time for her to have a court hearing about whether or not she's going to get bail, the judge is like, you're a flight risk. And she's like, my son is here. I work here. She's like, I can't leave. Why would I want to leave? I need to be with my son. And then the judge is like, well, whatever for the most part. And Gabe is there and he's allowed to speak, but he can't say too much because he's not a lawyer. So he's got to be in parentheses. He's like, well, we have character witnesses who can testify on her behalf. And the judge is like, whatever, that doesn't mean nothing to me. Well, we find out that the judge's son, who was a police officer, got killed by an undocumented immigrant. So he's very hard, on this policy. But then Officer Ben Jones pops up. And they're like, well, Your Honor, how about if a police officer, since you respect the police, how about if he speaks? And the judge is like, okay, well, what do you have to say? And Ben says, look, Ava's a great person. I'm her neighbor. She's really good. She's good people. He said, when I moved into this, into the apartment building, he said, I was going through a hard time. And she would always come by and check on me and just send me food, claiming it was leftovers, but she would always bring me something to eat and look in on me. He says she's good people. And he says, I vouch for her, and there's a police officer in the building, Your Honor. And the police officer's like, and the judge is like, okay. He's moved by that because his son was a police officer. He's like, okay, all right, officer, thank you for telling me that. And he's like, okay, bail is set at $10,000. So then she's like, okay, well, thank you. And then she's freaking out because she's like, I don't have the money for this. How am I going to get out? So, and then later on, Ben is able to go see her before they send her back to jail. And he's like, hey, everything's going to be fine. Your boy is fine. He doesn't talk too much. He's a little upset. And I'm having a hard time getting him to go to sleep. And she's like, well, you have to sing to him to get him to sleep. And she's like, he needs this and that. He goes, I figured some of that stuff out. He goes, but my singing's not yours. He's like, I have an idea. So then later on, after she hugs him and says, thank you for all you're doing, I really appreciate it. She's like, but how am I going to get the money to make bail? And he's like, don't worry about that. You're going to see your son soon. So then later on, you see Ben with her son, cute kid. But you can see, why wouldn't he be upset and withdrawn? He saw his mama get arrested, Of course you're going to be upset about that. But he's got, so he's in the bedroom and he's talking to, her son. He's like, I saw your mom today. He goes, did she? He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, she's okay. He goes, I have a surprise for you. And he gives him his cell phone, and you see that he recorded Ava singing that song that since that she was singing to him every night to get him to go to bed and go to sleep. So he watches. His face lights up as he sees his mother on the cell phone, and she starts singing him the song. And he takes the phone and puts it to his ear, and he lays down, and you see him fall asleep. And then the next scene, you see Officer Jones and him playing basketball in the room with a little net and really bonding. And then with the last episode I saw, eventually Officer Jones is the one who gets her, he pays for her bail to come out. And she's like, oh my God, I can't afford to pay you back. Why'd you do this? He goes, hey, it's no big deal. He's like, hey, I'll get the money back once you go to court. Don't worry about it. And then you can see they're getting close. You can see, you can tell that they're going to wind up probably being a couple. Now the question is going to be, is he going to marry her to keep her, in the country, or how far will it go? But you see, that's where it seems to be moving, and it's very moving because when he goes to get her out of jail, the son's with him, and she gives him a big hug. He's like, "Hey, you're going home," and she's like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you're going home." It's very moving. I like the cast. I like the ensemble. Everybody's got drama going on. We didn't get a chance to talk about how Ron's wife, Patricia, she went to see her doctor for a checkup. You find out that she's got something going on that she hasn't told her husband about yet. So everybody's got something to deal with. And then, of course, Sarah has to figure out, what's she going to do about her daughter being pregnant? Is she going to be supportive? And she still has to tell her about how her father's in the building. And, all this is going on. And then Gabe is like, well, my grandpa doesn't want to live in the nursing home, but is that the best thing for him? Or should he be with me? And I'm still studying to be a lawyer. And, so all this is going on. The cast is great. Lots of drama, lots of things hidden, not coming to the surface yet. Just lots of things going on. How are things going to, what's going to happen? Is Enzo going to be able to stay at the nursing home? What is Patricia not telling her husband about, in regards to the doctor's checkup with her? Will Ava be able to stay in the country? Is she falling for Ben? Is Ben falling for her? Is Katie going to keep her baby? Will she tell the father? Can Nick find his place in the world now that he's back from, combat? So I'm enjoying the show. I'm looking forward to seeing the new episode. It's The Village on NBC. So far, it's great. I like it a lot. In the Dark on CW Network, another great show. I'm enjoying that as well. Well, good people of the planet Earth and the known universe, you've been listening to Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. It's your Captain Keith. I hope you had a good time. I know I did. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening. And, well, until next time, see you somewhere out in space.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.